I love duffel coats. There's absolutely nothing as comfortable as a duffel coat. Surprising because they can be sort of open and yet they're still warm. The pockets are in exactly the right place to just stick your hands in them, especially when you've got phones and all that sort of stuff these days. It's such an incredibly well thought out, simple garment. Originally, I think the first we saw them was for the British Navy. You'll see sort of captains and admirals on battleships wearing them with a big polo neck white submariner's jersey. But there's different makers, and for me, the only maker, if I'm going to own a duffel coat myself, and I think I've got 3, this make, Gloverall, is just head and shoulders above all the others. Now suddenly duffel coats have become incredibly fashionable, and so people like Ralph Lauren and I think Yves Saint Laurent making duffel coats. Guarantee, if it's fashion people making them, they're going to be rubbish. They're not going to stand up. I mean, I've seen duffel coats from fashion companies like Laura Ashley and Monsoon and people, and you just wouldn't wear them on a battleship. But these Gloverall coats are absolutely fabulous, as long as they continue to make them like this. Now, they've nicked a lot of things from different people. The fabric, I think, is the reason they're called duffel coats. There's a town in Belgium that used to make the fabric. It's called duffel. I think I'm right on that. These toggles, I think we nicked this from China. On Chinese garments, they had a sort of lozenge shape fastening that worked like this duffel coat. I don't know if it's come from anywhere else, but it's such a fantastic garment. There's a lot of adjustment in the hood. You can actually bring it down close to your scalp if you're really seriously cold. Never actually used that. See, it's got a piece of elastic in it as well. Now, there are duffel coats from other manufacturers, as I've said, and there's 2 or 3 manufacturers that claim to have made the original duffel coat and tend to be the governors, but I see an awful lot, and I've worn a lot of these. Only Gloverall ones. I think this company's, I mean, I might be wrong, it might be as big as Burberry soon, because they've started making a lot of other garments. They do a wax short duffel coat as well, and I recently had through my hands a duffel coat but in white cotton canvas, so you've got a summer duffel coat, but it's quite chic and smart. So maybe I only hope that they don't go the same way as R.M. Williams and Bell Staff and these companies that once made super workwear and incredibly durable garments, and then as soon as they become a fashion company, the accountants come in and say, oh, we can make these cheaper, you know, we can use cheaper materials. I mean, Ralph Lauren, they must have a rule where they just won't spend more than about $20 on any material they buy, because it's very photogenic stuff, but you get a tweed suit from Ralph Lauren, it's not going to last very long. Sometimes in the vintage business you get some real little gems, not necessarily valuable things, but really interesting things. Now, someone bought this into my shop in Fulham. It's a fantastic thing. I thought originally it might be 60 years old. We did a little bit of checking on it, and well, first of all, let me show you what it is. It's a cape. But it's a real bit of explorer's kit. It's very, very big, and it's got lots and lots of skirt in it, so I think that's like to go over the back of the horse or the camel or whatever you are. There's a lot of space here. Let's just show you the table. Imagine, yeah, I suppose you could use it as a sort of sleeping bag as well. It's just a great big wrap-around cape. It would be very warm. It's made from a 28-ounce, certainly Scottish tweed. And I wondered about it, you know, who had it and where it's from. And there was just this tiny little label on the top, which gave the name of the shop in the Strand. And a little laundry or maybe school label or something here, which gave the name of the chap that owns it. I think it's W.P. Peel, I think. And we looked him up, and it, unbelievably, from just that faded old label, found this guy. First of all, the shop that sold it was a specialist shop to explorers, and it was sold 160 years ago. This is sort of mid-Victorian. And the chap that owned it, we looked him up and we found a guy who was a bit of an adventurer. I think he was also an MP and a barrister, quite a guy. I think he might be in the National Portrait Gallery or something. We got a lot of information, amazing, just from these two little labels here. And the guy that had the shop, the chap that had the shop, also wrote a book on durable clothing for explorers. So, yeah, it's amazing what you find out when you get bits of kit like this. It's an incredible piece of garment. I'm going to do a few little repairs on it. A little bit of moth damage here and on the collar here. But you see, it's an easy fix for this kind of thing. There'll be somewhere inside where I can rob some of the same colour material and just gently sort of weave it. It doesn't have to be a fantastic job. It doesn't have to be invisible, as long as you cover that hole in using the same cloth which you steal from the inside somewhere. Lovely bit of kit. And of course, designed I suppose for riding on a horse, somewhere where it's cold. But on the subject of riding, there's a few firms that just really impressed me no end. And some of the firms that are still like going now, let's take Moss Bros. Now up until the 1970s, they were high-end retailers. Interesting place, not many people know, but they had a sort of dead men's clothing department on the top floor in their Covent Garden shop. Only young army officers and young barristers seem to know about it. You get some fabulous old clothes going back to the 1920s, and especially formal wear, dinner jackets and morning coats. And up until the 70s, if you bought a grey hopsack morning coat, which would be a three-piece from Bros, it was super quality. It's all fallen apart since then. They went polyester and yeah, it's all downhill. But they also made a lot of riding kit. The British warm overcoat, the best ones you'll see were made by Moss Bros and Hawes & Curtis and Hawks & Co., particularly Hawks & Co. of Savile Row, before it was Geese and Hawks. Now this is a Moss Bros riding jacket. And this is a properly cut riding jacket, and I've actually copied the style myself. This is a riding jacket with what we call a full skirt. So let's just put it on, show you what it's like from the back. I mean, all jackets are basically hacking jackets, and if they've got a single bent, they can be used for riding. But if they're properly cut, this is just a little bit big for me. If they're properly cut, you've got quite a flared skirt on this, and should be quite deep vent at the back too. This is a properly cut riding jacket. And also the quality of the cloth, this is in a sort of keeper's tweed, which is probably 100% wool keeper's tweed. Modern keeper's tweed has a little bit of polyester in it to help with the waterproofing, but this is about 28 ounce. It's indestructible. This one is from 1950s, I suppose. It's got an old 1950s Moss Bros label in. Super quality product. This is what Moss Bros used to turn out. They also had an exclusive heavy but soft tweed, softer than a super sax. It's really nice, and I don't have to touch it to recognise it as that particular Moss Bros tweed. I don't think anybody else had this tweed. Now, apart from Moss Bros, we did a lot of riding kit. The market leaders by far were Harry Hall. Now this is a Harry Hall suit, and it might be my size. I might try and alter it to fit me. It's in cavalry twill. It's a jacket and trousers. 28 ounce, absolutely super stuff. There is a firm in Leeds which still makes this quality cavalry twill, but if anything, it might only be theatre and film use these days. But this is the old label from the early 60s. And again, Harry Hall now is just a brand, and they do sort of anoraks and things like this, but they made beautiful riding kit, elegant, beautiful riding kit. They started out, I remember buying old tailcoats, evening tails, from Harry Hall in Cheapside in the city, but at some time they've decided to go just into riding wear, and that was pretty much all they did. And this one is just a regular suit, but it's cut in the hacking style with a fairly deep vent out of super material. And I think we've got another one kicking. Yeah, here's this has been made obviously for riding. This is a very popular colour for riding. Again, moss brass on the same vent, really deep vent, full skirt, and that lovely old Harry Hall label. Just try this one on. It's about my size if I wear a jumper underneath. Yeah, I really like this. This kind of cloth, you buy one of these, you've still got it 50 years later, and it looks absolutely great. Now there's another firm, a tailoring company as opposed to a manufacturing company, who make absolutely fantastic quality riding kit. It's Frank Hall, up near Leicester somewhere. I have one of their suits. When I started manufacturing, I knew I had to equal people like Lambourne and Frank Hall and early Moss Bros, and I just happened to have this vintage suit, just great. It's absolutely my size, so this is staying in my wardrobe. It's a super quality jacket, three-piece suit. Yeah, this is just the best of English tailoring. Absolutely fabulous stuff. This tailor makes a lot of hunt coat. Now it does. This has disappeared from waistcoats. Decent tailors still put it in, the neckband at the back. My personal way of making things even better is to do a continuous neckband, which is a little bit wasteful on material, but it's the right way to do it. These beautiful lining materials, 100% cotton. Yeah, this is super cut pair of trousers, quite elegant tapered line on the trousers there. Fabulous cloth. This is probably John G. Hardy cloth. Again, sadly they've gone now, but I think it's called their Sportex range or something. Indestructible stuff, and even when it's worn out, it will still look great. Frank Hall, and where's his label? Let's get a look at that. Oh, let's find it in the. Here we go. Frank Hall. Perhaps the best in the country for this kind of kit. Raincoats. I've got about 12 raincoats. I think I probably need 12 raincoats. I'm not going to be part of many of them. I might only wear one of them. I tend to slip on an old Burberry, funnily enough. A lot of people think Burberry invented the raincoat. They didn't. They invented gabardine, which all credit to them, but the first trench coat in this style was made for soldiers in the trenches, and it had lots of little military things going on. You see, the epaulets, you have your officers' pips on the epaulets here. Now on the belt, you get little D-rings, which they still put on these days. That was for your gun and anything else you might want to hang on there. Usually there'll be a panel here on trench coats, a little D-ring here that will be for the whistle when they're going over the top. Now this is a Grenfell raincoat. This is the holy grail of raincoats. This is the best raincoat in the world, and it's a trench coat, and it's got a Melton lining in it. This was the most expensive raincoat you could buy. I'll probably never wear this. I don't like the trench coats. Awfully, a bit too fussy for me, but they're popular. What I prefer, the one I sort of slip on if it actually is raining, and I've got it handy, just an old Burberry one. And I sort of favour this tonic green colour. I mean, this is just no nonsense, nothing, no unnecessary stuff, just something that keeps you dry. Some of my customers sometimes put their hands in the pocket and think there's a hole or something. No, that's any decent waistcoat has this facility. You do it up and it's raining, and then you get to your car and you think, oh, where's my car keys? Well, they're in my trouser pocket. That's so that you can get your inside pockets without having to undo the raincoat. This is a nice old Burberry one, when Burberry still was the real company, spelt Burberry's with an S on the end. And when their main shop in London didn't say Burberry's, but a Scotch House. If you see a Scotch House raincoat, that was the big Burberry shop. When they suddenly got successful in the fashion business, they changed the name to Burberry, which just sounds a bit more international and cool, and they changed the Scotch House shop into the Burberry flagship store. Lovely aqua scutum one here again, with a zip out lining. These are just fantastic. These are again nice and simple to wear. The zip out lining is just a nice thing to have in winter because it's as warm as an overcoat. Now, I think the film was the Ipcress file. There's a picture, I think, for the film poster with Michael Caine wearing a aqua scutum or a Burberry raincoat. But it just came about there. And they became really fashionable. Everybody wanted them. Quite often people come into the shop and say, I've got those Michael Caine ones. They were fine until you found out when you actually went out in the rain, being a raincoat and waterproof, rain would run down the coat and absolutely soak your knees, and you'd get a big soaked patch on your trousers like that. So a raincoat has to be past your knees, really, if it's going to be any good at all. With this shoe, really is a work of art. It's the most exquisite shoe I've ever seen. It cost fortunes to get a pair made like this now. Absolutely beautiful. The way I acquired them, I bought these, well, I acquired them from a chap that used to bring me a lot of vintage stuff. He'd normally bring a suitcase or a little trunk full of maybe house clearance stuff. There'd be some tootle ties, some cufflinks, some cricket jumpers, and normally small things, and occasionally some shoes and gloves. And he opened the case, and I looked inside. Immediately I saw a pair of crocodile shoes. Well, that's immediately interesting. And then I looked inside the shoe. I thought, bloody hell, they're from Lob. Right. And I thought, they look like my size, but I bet they're not. Wouldn't be that lucky. I tried one on, I think on my right foot, and it was like putting my foot in a dish of angel delight. It was like it'd been painted on my foot. And I immediately thought, people that have bespoke shoes very often have got dodgy feet, like one twice as big as the other or something like that. So I bet the left one's not going to fit as well. I put it on, it was exactly the same. Magically, probably is a better fit on me than the chap they were made for. So I said to this chap, who I bought a lot of stuff from now and then, I said, well, what have you got on these? Meaning how much? And he said to me, is 25 all right? And I looked at the shoes and I said, well, no, not really. And he said, oh, I gave 15, what do you think? And I said, well, can't do 25. He said, well, whatever you think. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I actually paid for them, but it was a lot more than 25. And I said to him, look, these are really good shoes. I wouldn't sleep if I gave him 25 quid. So I gave him a lot more, and I'm obviously going to keep them for myself. I never had any thoughts about selling them. I've never worn them. Maybe I'll be buried in them. But it's nice to know that I own the pair of shoes, and it's not possible to get a better pair of shoes than the ones I'm holding in my hand. Maybe I'll give them an outing one day, a special date or something. looking inside stuff. I might have talked about canvassing before. I love to just count the spaces between the stitches to see if they're straight and wonder who did it and wonder if they got away with it. But anyway, never to criticise anyone else's work, because this is probably better than I could do myself. So anyway, this is an old Huntsman coat, very much Peaky Blinders style, double-breasted, sometimes called Chesterfield. It's got a velvet collar, not an inset velvet collar, but nice velvet collar. It's a really, really beautiful coat, and sadly it's not my size, because I'd love that. It's really nice. It's a bit heavy, but they're not heavy when you get them on, a bit like the German leather coats. If you ask somebody to hold them, they say, oh wow, they're really heavy. When you put it on, it just feels normal. Anyway, someone or something has happened to this, and the lining, it came to me like this. The lining's gone. It's 1950s, I think, Huntsman. I'm going to put a lining back in it, and it's not difficult to do. I did a similar thing with I do like a bit of old Harris tweed, and this is a fabulous old, I think it's made by Horns or someone, forget who. Yeah, no, Hope Brothers, right, really nice old English brand, and the old 1940s Harris tweed level. Now this was half lined, so a lot of stuff that gets made for the American market is sort of lighter weight. They like the Harris tweed, but it's a little bit hot for them, so they don't line it fully. So I put this tassel lining in here and finished it sort of quite nicely, so it looks sort of quite original really. It's now a warm coat, and this is my my winter coat. And this raglan sleeve style of this coat, they are so nice. It's just like getting in a blanket or something. They're really comfortable. They're stylish. You can wear them a little bit oversized and they just look great. Unbelievably comfortable. This one has got the nice moleskin pockets, which a lot of old overcoats have velvet in the pockets, and it costs nothing extra to do it. I don't know why they don't now. Put your hands in and you think, oh wow, yeah, I want to keep my hands in these pockets. Yeah. But yeah, so this, I added the lining to make this a little bit warmer, and I'm going to do a similar thing with the Huntsman. Now, it's not a difficult job to reline an overcoat, especially if you got lucky like me. About 20 years ago, I bought a lot of these. They are, I think it might have been from some theatre company. These are suit bags and garment bags, but they've been made out of lining material and made a long time ago. So this is genuine 1950s lining material, 100% cotton. So it's perfect if you're going to reline a vintage piece like this. What I'll do with the Huntsman one is I line it to about here, which you need it to be a bit sort of slippy to slide on. You can't line the top and the sleeves with wool, it would be uncomfortable. And I'm going to line the lower bit with this. This is an old kilt. I might change my mind on the tartan. I've got quite a lot of these. You get yards and yards and yards of tartan with a kilt. And this is a large size man's kilt, 100% wool. It's got a few bits of sort of moth damage here and there, so I'm going to unpick it and get myself a very long length of this tartan. And so the bottom of this coat might be a different tartan to this, because this is maybe a little bit bright, makes a bit too much of a statement. So the top will be in this nice black sort of satin cotton, the shiny side of course. Yeah. So the top will be like that, and the bottom will be this lovely tartan. Now, it's not difficult to reline. You don't really have to have a lot of great skills to reline a jacket. Just take your cloth, and all you need to do, see, this already has one seam up that side, and could even reuse that seam. So you just make a start by pinning it into position and going along till it feels like it's going to stop, and you can very easily work out the pattern for a lining. This is going to be really great. I think by February I might have it finished. Sadly, it's not my size, it's about a size 42, but lovely bit of Huntsman kit. You'll never ever see this kind of cloth being made again. These buttons don't exist now, these lovely Savile Row buttons. Silk velvet on the collar. Really beautiful thing, cut by one of their legendary cutters at Huntsman. Absolutely super garment. So I'll be spending probably about a day on this to finish it. So I'll let you have a look later. My vintage storeroom is pretty big. There's probably a couple of thousand tweed jackets here, and incidentally in late September, early October we're going to have a big sale here. So if you have a need for tweed or anything like that, the place will be open to the public here. Now, I'm trying to find some John G. Hardy tweed, which is a really beautiful thorn-proof tweed made in Yorkshire. Indestructible, beautiful stuff. And actually, John G. Hardy, I thought, made the best Donegal tweed, so the best Irish tweed comes from Yorkshire. I'm going to get into a lot of trouble saying this stuff. But the cloth is beautiful, and it's quite recognisable, not just by sight, but by touch. If I find one, I'll know by the feel rather than looking at the label. There must be one here because there's a lot of tweed here. Oh, this is Derby tweed. Derby tweed is funny old stuff. Derby tweed used to get railwaymen's trousers in exactly the same as this, with this red line and light grey line or something. But the railwaymen's trousers were in a sort of slightly purple, navy blue sort of colour. Derby tweed was, they'd use up all the yarn that they had left at the end of a season or whatever, and they'd make it into workwear. It's incredibly hard wearing stuff. It's quite heavy, like up to 28 ounce. And workwear was Derby tweed, because the green was fine for gamekeepers and gillies and people, and the blue for window cleaners and railway workers. It wasn't expensive. It's a bit like, I don't see somebody wearing a scarf that's just lots of different stripes, colours. That's scarf makers getting rid of all their own yarn. Now, John G. Hardy, got to find some John G. Hardy. And find some other stuff on the way. Lots of Harris tweed here. Now, this is a bespoke tailored jacket that feels like John G. Hardy, but it'll have a tailor's label in it probably, and not, yeah. This has been made for somebody, and so it doesn't have the label of the cloth. Gosh, there's a lot of Derby tweed here. Put all this stuff together. Yeah. Now, I used to love Exquisite. I used to queue up for their winter sale, and this is their 1970s label, I think, but this is very, very lightweight. I mean, I could probably poke my finger through this. It's not really super quality, but the brand itself, Exquisite was the best shop in London. Had like 5 floors of fantastic quality clothes. Now, where's John G. Hardy? John G. Hardy, where are you? Instantly recognisable as Dax. I'd be surprised if I'd made a mistake. Oh no, it's Aquascutum. Very similar to Dax. I mean, they were just a few hundred yards apart. But this cloth looks very much like a Dax cloth, and this is very much in their style. 1970s made Aquascutum tweed. Oh, come on, where's my John G. Hardy? Dunn & Co. made. I almost had a monopoly on Harris tweed. Lots and lots of Harris tweeds made by Dunn. Bit of an old man's tailor. They weren't exactly for young guys. No. Could this be it? No, not quite tough enough. Nice Burton made jacket. Oh, that's a bit of a statement. Nice size 40, full on 70s in Scotch tweed, it says. Yeah, that's pretty dramatic. Yeah, I'm going to leave that one out because I'm working on a film at the moment which needs a lot of really full on 70s kit. And you don't get more 70s than that. And in the 1970s, this would have passed unnoticed in the street. Now, this is John G. Hardy cloth, I'm sure, but it's got a tailor's label in it, and the chap I'm trying to find this stuff for is going to want to see his John G. Hardy label. Now, Brooke Taverner as a manufacturer, I see an awful lot of vintage kit, and I've got to say, lately maybe they've upped their game a little bit, but I've seen some quite nice quality, well-made stuff coming from this company, Brooke Taverner. Sort of developed a bit of a new respect for them, really. Don't know who's in charge there. This looks like wool and silk, this one, or it might be some... Oh, this is Arian Wheeler. Now, Arian Wheeler, this is polyester and linen, so this is probably 70s too. Arian Wheeler, they go back way more than 100 years, and they were the lightweight specialists. So you get kitted out for your tropical kit. If you're travelling abroad, or your safari suit, Arian Wheeler would make it for you. Now, this looks like Dax. I hope I haven't made a mistake again. Oh, this is Austin Reed. Another one in that little group of shops that were fantastic. Aquascutum, Austin Reed, Dax Simpson. Yeah. Oh, where's my John G. Hardy stuff? Oh, this was made by the Co-op. It's exclusively styled for the Co-op. Yeah. In acrylic and wool and other fibres. The Co-op made really super school gabardines, and their brand was Society brand, and they're really good quality. I mean, a gabardine, if you find a schoolgirl gabardine from the Co-op with Society brand, you'd have to pay about £1,500 to get the same thing from Burberry now. This is from BHS. It's a 42 regular, but it's a really nice Harris tweed, and this is older quality. It's not the really super heavy Harris tweed, but it's older quality Harris tweed. Gosh, I've got a lot of tweed. That's about 10 more rows like this. Now, maybe this one is John G. Hardy. Nope. Feels like John G. Hardy, but there's no label in it. This one, also a thorn proof. No. We're going to find one. There's got to be one here. These are all Harris tweeds. Oh, this is a softer tweed here, and that's a bit of moth damage. A little bit later, I'm going to show you how to repair moth damage. This is pretty bright too. It's now this looks like a 1960s jacket, which somebody's pressed the lapel down in that to. No, this is odd. This is maybe Italian. This is like Naples kind of tailoring, where they have this buttonhole, but that's actually works as a 2-button jacket. It's tailored, but I think this might be Italian. Nice deep vent on it. Interesting bit of kit, actually. Right. Well, lots and lots of houndstooth Harris tweed here. Very unusual. I've come to the end of this row, and I've not seen a John G. Hardy cloth yet. But I've got 5 more rows to go. Yeah, some really nice, these wide 70s lapels, really super. Nice cavalry trill, probably made by Dunn, this one. No, Centaur. Yeah. It's quite lightweight, nice. Interesting, it's the 70s, you wouldn't normally see that together. It's very much a 60s thing, when they sort of went Edwardian, early 60s, we'd have the pocket flap on the breast pocket. Unusually, it's got a button on it, but it's got the wide 70s lapel. I think it's just a bit too much going on there, really. but interesting bit of kit, very much of its time, made by Dunn. So this has been made for somebody, I think, has probably asked for all these details. It's got buttons on these pocket flaps. Yeah, interesting bit of kit. That might be handy for the film we're doing at the moment. I'll continue the search tomorrow for my John G. Hardy cloth.